Some stories are unsettling because they feel too real, and these might be more than just stories. From a strange jog under the moonlight to eerie encounters behind locked doors, what you're about to hear will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. If you enjoy unsettling true stories like these, help this channel grow by subscribing and turning on notifications. Every subscription helps us bring you more real horror stories that keep you up at night. Don't just listen, be part of the darkness. I live in a quiet suburb outside of Portland. It's the kind of place where people leave their porch lights on, where kids ride bikes until the sun goes down, and where the loudest sound at night is usually the breeze pushing through the trees. I've always liked jogging at night. It's quieter, cooler, and oddly peaceful. I'd throw on my headphones, lace up my shoes, and hit the sidewalk after dinner. Same route every time. Down Marlow Street, past the high school, through the small park with the old oak trees, and back around to my house. About 4 miles total. I'd been doing it for months. This story takes place in late October. The nights had started getting colder, and with Halloween around the corner, a lot of the houses were decked out with fake cobwebs, jack-o'-lanterns, and those cheesy motion sensor decorations that scream when you walk past. It was a Wednesday. I remember because I almost skipped my run that night. I'd had a long day at work and just wanted to crash, but something about the cool air outside felt inviting. I figured a quick jog would help me unwind. I grabbed my jacket, slipped on my running shoes, and headed out. The first half of the run was normal. The usual houses, the occasional passing car, a couple walking their dog gave me a polite wave as I passed. I turned the corner by the high school and entered the park. That part of the road always made me a little uneasy. It wasn't dangerous, just dark. The park only had one flickering street lamp, and most of the trail was shaded by those huge, looming oak trees. As I jogged through, I took out one of my earbuds. I had this habit of listening for footsteps behind me every so often, not because I was paranoid, more like a ritual. I didn't hear anything except the crunch of leaves under my own shoes. That's when I noticed something strange. About 30 feet ahead, just beyond a bend, the trail curves around a playground, swings, a slide, one of those little jungle gyms. I've passed it 100 times, but that night, the swings were moving, not just swaying gently in the breeze, but swinging, like someone had just jumped off. I slowed down, pulled out both earbuds, and stopped completely. There was no one there, no kids, no wind, just those two swings creaking back and forth, like someone invisible was still on them. I told myself it was probably the wind. Maybe a strong gust had come through before I got there. I shook it off and kept going, but the feeling didn't shake off with it. I felt, watched, not followed, watched, like someone was standing just out of sight, holding their breath. I turned the next corner, coming up the hill, toward the last stretch of the route, when I saw a figure. At first, I thought it was another jogger. The figure was wearing a hoodie, standing perfectly still beneath one of the streetlights near the exit of the park, but something about the way it was standing made me slow down. The head was slightly tilted, like it was studying me. It didn't move. I stopped running and just stared. The street lamp flickered above it, and for a moment, it looked like the face was covered, or maybe just obscured by shadow. I blinked. It was gone, like completely gone. 1 second there, the next, just nothing, no movement. I stood there frozen, waiting for it to pop out, or for a sound to explain what I just saw. But there was nothing. I sprinted home the rest of the way. I locked the door behind me, leaned against it, and tried to calm my racing heart. I didn't sleep well that night. Every creak in the house felt louder. Every shadow seemed deeper. The next night, I didn't run. The night after that, I told myself I was being silly, that I'd just been tired, maybe dehydrated, and let my imagination get the best of me. I needed to get back to my routine. So Friday night, I went jogging again. Same route, same time. I'll never forget what happened next. Everything was fine at first. I even started to feel a little silly for being so scared before. The park was quiet. The swings were still this time. No figure, no shadow, until I reached the final hill again. This time, someone was running behind me. I could hear the footsteps. Steady, light, fast. I turned my head slightly and saw it in my peripheral vision, a figure in a hoodie. But here's the thing. There were no footsteps before I heard it. It's like it started right behind me, out of nowhere, and it's getting closer. I picked up my pace, heart pounding. The footsteps behind me got faster too. I turned my head again. No one, but the footsteps didn't stop. I ran full speed until I reached my house, slammed the door, and stood there, gasping, listening. The footsteps had stopped the second I stepped off the pavement and onto my driveway. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't jog for a week after that, but I couldn't let it go. I needed answers. I even asked a couple of neighbors if they'd seen anyone strange around the park. One of them, an older guy named Tom, who lived a block over, said something that stuck with me. "You take the trail past the swings, right?" he asked. Back in the 90s, a woman was attacked there while jogging. They never found the guy. That same chill ran through me again. I tried to put it all behind me. For a few months, I avoided jogging at night. I went in the mornings, or not at all. But curiosity's a hell of a thing. One night, around midnight, I got dressed, put on my shoes, and headed out. No headphones this time, just me and the road. The air was still, no wind, just the crunch of gravel beneath my feet. When I got to the swings, they weren't moving, but the street light next to the exit flickered, and under it, it was there. Same figure, hoodie, still, watching. I didn't stop this time. I ran straight toward it. As I got closer, the light flickered again, and it vanished, gone, like a breath of air. I don't run that route anymore. Sometimes, I drive past the park during the day. It looks so normal. Kids play on those swings. People walk their dogs. The same trail I used to run without a second thought now feels like a scar I can't ignore. I still jog, but only at the gym, because every once in a while, when I hear someone else's footsteps behind me, my heart races, not from the workout, but from the thought that maybe, just maybe, it followed me home. I've worked as an overnight security guard for almost 10 years now. I've watched warehouses, construction sites, even a strip mall once. It's not glamorous, but it's quiet work, and I like quiet. Most shifts are uneventful. Just me, my flashlight, and a lot of time to think. But there was one job, about 3 years ago, that made me reconsider this line of work altogether. It was a temporary contract for a property on the outskirts of town, a small 2-story office building that had recently been vacated. The company went under during COVID, and until the building sold, they needed someone to keep an eye on it. I was told kids had been breaking in to vandalize, tagging walls, and stealing copper wiring. Simple enough. The building was tucked back behind a row of trees, near a dead-end road. No nearby houses, just the hum of traffic from a distant highway, and woods all around. The company set me up with a small room on the first floor, basically a converted office, with a mini fridge, a desk, and a cot. My first few nights there were normal. I'd do rounds every couple hours, check all the entrances, make sure no one had broken in. I'd listen to music, eat, scroll through my phone. The building was old, but stable, creaky floors, bad plumbing, and pipes that moaned sometimes, but nothing out of the ordinary. That changed around my fourth night. It started with the elevators. The building had a single elevator that connected the two floors. I never used it, always took the stairs, but around 2 a.m., while I was reviewing some footage from the exterior cameras, I heard a soft ding. I froze, waited, and then heard the doors slide open. I thought maybe the wiring was just faulty, so I grabbed my flashlight and walked out into the hall. The elevator was sitting there on the ground floor, doors wide open, no one inside. I stepped in just enough to wave my flashlight around. Empty, no sounds, no movement. I pressed the button to close the doors, and they shut, without issue. 15 minutes later, the camera in the lobby pinged. Motion detected. I pulled it up on my monitor. The feed was grainy, black and white, but clear enough to see the elevator doors slowly sliding open again. Still, no one was there. I watched for a full 2 minutes before they closed again on their own. Okay, so maybe a glitch. Maybe some weird electrical signal. I logged it in my notes, chalked it up to the building's age. But the next night, it got worse. Same time, 2 a.m. The elevator dinged. This time I ignored it. I told myself I was being paranoid and went back to watching YouTube on my phone. That's when I heard footsteps, heavy ones, like someone in boots, walking down the second floor hallway above me. I muted my phone and listened. They kept moving, slow, deliberate, like someone pacing. I grabbed my flashlight and my key ring and headed for the stairs. The whole time I was going up, I was preparing myself to find a squatter, or maybe a thief, who had slipped in earlier. But when I reached the top, the hallway was empty. I walked slowly past the row of offices, light sweeping over blank desks, overturned chairs, abandoned filing cabinets. No one, nothing. And then I heard it. The elevator. It dinged again. And when I turned the corner, I saw it sitting open, on the second floor. This time, there was someone inside, but it wasn't right. It looked like a man, but he was facing the back wall completely still, wearing a gray hoodie, dark pants. His hands were at his sides, and his posture was stiff, like he wasn't just standing there, like he was waiting. I called out, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." No reaction. I stepped a little closer, my flashlight aimed right at him, and I could feel my pulse in my ears. "Sir, I need you to leave the property now." He turned, but not like a normal person. It was jerky, like a broken animatronic, and when I saw his face, he didn't have one. It was just smooth, like wax. No eyes, no mouth, no features, just a blank pale shape. The lights in the hallway flickered, and in that split second, the elevator doors began to close. I ran, but by the time I got to it, the elevator had gone. I stood there, heart racing, listening to the hum of it descending back to the first floor. I didn't follow. Instead, I locked myself in the security office, turned all the lights on, and sat there until sunrise. I checked the cameras again and again, but after that, nothing. No motion, no movement. The next morning, I reported what I saw. I was embarrassed. Honestly, I didn't mention the face, or lack of one. I just said, I thought someone might be messing with the elevator system. They told me I could switch to daytime shifts if I wanted. I didn't even bother. I quit the contract altogether. A few months later, I was talking to another guy at a job site downtown. I mentioned that old office building, and his face went pale. He said he'd worked a job near there years ago, back when it was still occupied. He told me the building had been the site of a suicide. An employee had jumped down the elevator shaft late one night, after hours. They said he'd been acting strange for weeks, quiet, withdrawn, obsessed with the idea that something was following him, something that rode the elevator up, but never came back down. I haven't worked nights since, but every so often I'll be in a building, and I'll hear an elevator ding in the distance, and I won't go check it. Not anymore. I moved into a basement apartment in upstate New York last fall. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom unit with low ceilings, old tile floors, and those tiny rectangular windows near the top of the walls that reminded you constantly you were underground. But it was affordable, private, and seemed like the perfect place to regroup after a tough breakup. The house itself was a beautiful but aging Victorian-style home that had clearly seen better days. The landlord, a quiet guy named Tom, in his late 50s, lived upstairs. He didn't talk much, but he was polite. I liked that. I wasn't in the mood for neighbors or small talk. The first few weeks were fine, cold at night, a little damp, but nothing unexpected for a basement unit in an older home. I spent my nights watching movies, working on freelance projects, or scrolling aimlessly on my phone. Everything was normal until it wasn't. It started with the sound. Late one night, as I was lying on the couch with the TV on low, I heard a faint scratching coming from the wall behind me. Just light, irregular tapping at first. I muted the TV. The sound stopped. I waited. Nothing. As soon as I unmuted the TV, the sound came back, slightly louder this time. I turned off the screen and sat in silence. Again nothing. I figured it was mice. Old house, cold weather, pretty typical. I texted Tom the next day, and he promised to set some traps. He even came down to check the place, though only briefly. I didn't think much of it after that, but then came the whispering. It happened around 3 a.m. I woke up, startled, and immediately noticed it was dead quiet. No traffic, no pipes creaking, just silence. Then I heard it, a whisper. It was low, hoarse, almost like someone mumbling into a pillow. It seemed to come from the wall directly next to my bed. I turned on the bedside lamp. The whispering stopped. My heart pounded in my ears as I sat up, frozen, listening. I checked every room, looked under the bed, even stepped outside for a moment to calm myself down. No one was around, no movement in the windows upstairs, just the kind of cold, still night that makes you feel like you're the only person left on earth. It kept happening, not every night, but often enough. Always between 3 and 4 a.m., always a whisper. Sometimes it would last for only a few seconds. Other times, it would go on for minutes, like a low chant repeating over and over. I never understood the words, but the rhythm of it was unsettling, like a warning I wasn't meant to comprehend. I started recording it. I left my phone on the nightstand and set it to record audio while I slept. The first 2 nights, I caught nothing. On the 3rd night, I captured something faint, but definitely there. At exactly 3:11 a.m., there was a soft voice on the tape. It was slow and slurred, like someone speaking from underwater. When I played it back at higher volume, it became clear. The voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." I froze when I heard it. I played it again, over and over, trying to convince myself it was some kind of interference or audio glitch. But it wasn't. It was a voice, and it was coming from inside my apartment. I showed the recording to Tom upstairs. He gave me a long look and said he'd never had complaints like that before. He even laughed nervously and suggested I must have dreamed it. I didn't press him, but something about his reaction didn't sit right. I started noticing other things after that. The one morning, I woke up and found the door to the laundry closet wide open. I always kept it shut. Another day, I came home from running errands and found a puddle of water in the hallway that hadn't been there before, and no sign of a leak. Then there was the day I discovered a tiny hole drilled into the wall above my bed, barely the width of a pencil. I plugged it with tissue and duct tape, but it made my skin crawl. Then came the crack. It was about 2 months in. I had just gotten home from work and was getting ready for bed when I noticed a long jagged crack in the wall next to the dresser. It hadn't been there the night before. I ran my hand over it. Cold air poured out, far too cold for an interior wall, and when I knocked on it, it sounded hollow. That night, the whispering returned, but it was different. It wasn't just a murmur now. It had a rhythm, like a breathless chant. It felt urgent, angry. Then came the tapping. 3 quick knocks from inside the wall. I froze. The air grew noticeably colder, and I could hear something moving, slowly, dragging itself along the inside of the dry wall. I bolted. I didn't sleep there that night. I stayed with my friend Lauren, and didn't return until the next afternoon. I debated breaking my lease, but figured I'd give it one more chance. Just one. I brought sage, a few religious trinkets from my grandmother, even salt to line the windows. I was desperate. That night, everything seemed quiet, until 3:11 a.m. I had just drifted off, when a loud, deliberate knock sounded on the wall beside my bed. Not random this time. 3 sharp, distinct knocks. Then came the whisper, "You let me in." I jumped out of bed and turned on every light in the apartment. I grabbed my phone and recorded again, but this time, there was nothing. No voice, no knock, just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the buzz of an old light fixture. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I went upstairs and told Tom I was leaving. He didn't argue. He didn't even ask for rent. He just nodded slowly and said, "That apartment's always been a little strange." That's when I knew he had known all along. I moved out the next day. A week later, Lauren called me, freaked out. She'd gone down a rabbit hole of old news archives and found something. Back in the 90s, a man had disappeared from that property. He was the owner back then, lived alone. After his wife passed away, police found signs that he'd sealed part of the basement from the inside. They believed he'd suffered a mental break and walled himself in. They never recovered a body. The timeline matched up with when the place had sat abandoned for years before Tom bought it. I haven't gone back since. The apartment has been listed again, probably to someone new, unaware, looking for a cheap place like I was. Sometimes I wonder if they've heard the whispering yet, if the crack in the wall has returned, if the voice has found a new audience.